Alrighty, folks, sorry for the delay. I haven't posted a video in a few weeks. I tried to do a video on this car like 2-3 weeks ago, but we ran out of time. It got too late in the day, the sun was going down, and by the time I had even jumped in the car to drive it, the sun was already gone and I was driving around with headlights and it just didn't look right. So I postponed that. I went out of town. I intended to do a video out of town, didn't get around to that. So here I am. But we're finally back, and with something very cool, as you can see, a 1984 Porsche 911 Cabriolet. And these are known as the Carrera 3.2s, and I think some people also refer to them as G body types or G types. This was before they had come out with the kind of a numbered system for chassis like 964, 993, all that stuff. So this was, I believe they're just known as G types, but this is a 1984 911 Cabriolet Carrera, and this one is a row, known as row, which means rest of world. So it's a European import. This is not a domestic model. There weren't too many major changes, I don't believe, with the row models versus domestic, but they did. The most notable difference is the power. Apparently these rows have approximately 231 horsepower versus the 207, I believe, for the USA models. This one belongs to a friend of mine, and it's been in his family for like 30 years or more, or something like that. And she's a beauty. She's a little cream puff. She's real clean. You know, probably not a show car, but considering that this vehicle's, you know, from 1984, 41 years old soon, you know, it's a testament to the build quality and the longevity that we know from Porsche. We know Porsche builds tough cars that just last forever, and this is no exception. Let's take a look at the inside. So as I stated, this one's not like a show car or anything, but it is in very good condition considering the age. I believe my friend's dad had this stored in a barn, literally, in Colorado for a number of years. And my friend also lived in California for a couple of years, and he left this vehicle but here back in Texas. And every time he would come back into town to drive it, it would start right up, just as a Porsche does. Fantastic color combination, white with brown top, and of course the brown interior. Let's take this puppy for a drive. Oh man, goodness gracious. Pardon me here. These 911s, these older ones, wow, they are small, man. And difficult to drive. I'll touch on that here in a moment. There we go. She starts right up. Does have an aftermarket head unit. You hear that sweet flat six purring behind you. Let's take her for a spin. There we go. Wow, these things are difficult to drive. These pedals are so different than what we're used to nowadays. You know, this is when Porsche was still doing the pedals. Okay, buddy, come on. Wow. This is when Porsche was still doing these pedals that were from the ground up rather than from the top down, and they're just tricky to drive, man. Very tricky. But one thing I was mentioning to my friend as we were driving over here last time actually, was it's really incredible how much these older 911s still feel like the modern 911. You know, Porsche has done such a tremendous job at preserving the feel of the 911, and not just preserving the feel of it, but making this car excel. You know, to this day, the 911 is one of the gold standards in the sports car world. And it's really an engineering marvel, because it shouldn't be. With the engine in the rear, it just defies all the odds of physics. And one second here. It defies all the odds of physics. With the engine in the rear, you would imagine that these would not handle very well. And true that in these older versions, they were known as widowmakers because they were very dangerous when driving at the limits of the car. You really had to know what you were doing to take this vehicle to its limits. So can you imagine the guys that were racing these things on the Nürburgring or any other tremendous racetrack throughout the world? I mean, you really had to know what you were doing. Nowadays, the 911 has become very drivable. Many people daily drive 911s, and they're quite safe now. You know, with all the modern technology of these traction controls and stability managements, they've become quite safe. But that was not the case back in this day. But nonetheless, going back to what I was saying, Porsche is really an engineering marvel. To take a vehicle with this kind of weight distribution, the engine in the rear, and to keep it going for so long now, virtually, you know, with no tremendously extreme changes to the philosophy of the car. It's still rear engine, and yet it is still one of the best handling, best performing vehicles out there. And yeah, these older ones and the newer ones, they're still so much alike. It's incredible. So testament to Porsche for just preserving for so long this philosophy, and really going against all of the naysayers of it, which there are many. But beyond that, beyond the performance, they're just fun to drive. They're just super cool. Everybody still stares at it, especially these older ones. They're classics. They're highly desirable, as we all know. Man, there's a lot of traffic here today. What on earth? I mean, I'm just in a neighborhood, for crying out loud. A little grind into gear there. That's kind of normal with these cars. We're gonna pull back into this parking lot where we were filming. But I mean, what can you say? It's a 911. I mean, everybody knows what a 911 is. This is probably the most quintessential sports car in the world. I mean, when you talk to a child, you know, what kind of sports car do you want? They're 9 times out of 10, they're going to say a Porsche 911 or a Ferrari. And speaking of Ferrari, what's also incredible about these cars is that for the life of them, since they've been around, they have always given Ferrari and Lamborghini a run for their money. And quite frankly, they're probably better cars. They're more livable. You can daily drive a 911. You can't really daily drive a Ferrari. You could, but, you know, you look like kind of a jerk doing it. But a Porsche 911 is just so livable. I mean, it's a regular car, but still with, you know, race car heritage and blood flowing through it. They're really incredible. We all know this. I'm not saying anything new here, but I'm just discussing. So there you have it, folks. 1984 Porsche 911 Cabriolet Row rest of world model. So you got the increased horsepower, and you get little tidbits like this, like a side marker apparently. It's got the 16-inch wheels, which I think some of the domestic models had 15-inch. So she's a beaut. Really glad to have featured her on this channel. This one's not for sale. This is not part of Prickly Pear's inventory, but just a cool car that I wanted to feature. Guys, thanks for watching today, and we'll see you next time. Give me a like, comment, and most importantly, a subscribe if you could. I'd really appreciate it. And we will see you soon with another Porsche. I've got another Porsche coming up, maybe two, and got some other really neat cars coming. So stay tuned, stick around. We'll see you guys soon. Thank you.